Hello, everyone. When Confucius said he set his mind on learning at age of 15 and established himself at 30, he emphasized that a person should be determined to learn in order to reach moral perfection. For he believed that learning could lead man to transform himself. So this is exactly the foundation of self-cultivation, which is by no means an easy job. So he believed that the men were very close to each other by nature and were set far apart by their own experiences of life. So thus, setting one's mind on learning make one stand out. So in this episode, we're going to focus on the Confucius view on learning. So when asked about learning, the majority of people would argue that it is no more than the accumulation of knowledge or the skills, which indeed constitutes the modern education system. According to Plato, there are two levels of education: professional training and character training. The professional training is not sufficient to fulfill one's spiritual prosperity. So in his view, educating is rather a moral enterprise, and it is a duty of educators to search for truth and virtue, and by doing so, to guide those whom they have responsibility to teach. So this exactly resonates with Confucius' interpretation of learning. So the golden rule of Confucian teaching highlights that sincerity is a spring of self-cultivation and ultimate morality, and only through learning can one attain the full feeling of achievement. So here are two layers of interpretation of learning. One is the literal learning, substantial knowledge, which is about the world, and the other is profound learning, the moral character building, yet manifested in our daily life. So these two, however, in no separation, should be united as an innate force to guide a person's self-realization. So the two philosophers are talking about the same thing. Learning knowledge is an accumulation process, yet the purpose of which is to find a way leading to self-realization. So how about the joy in learning? So the best interpretation of learning in Confucius' view should amount to such a state that learning is a joy, such as he stressed. To know something is not as good as being fond of it, and to be fond of something is not good as rejoicing in it. Such disposition on learning can also be found in his praise of Yan Hui, his most favorite student. He endures the impoverished life when he lived in a poor neighborhood. And with only a basket of rice and a good of water, yet he still enjoys the learning and is not affected by the unfavorable environment. So he repeatedly said, even with a coarse meal and plain water, I can find joy. And I study so hard that I almost forget about eating, but I can still find joy in it. So apparently, if a man can see learning as a joyful experience, more important than luxury in material prosperity, then he will find the true meaning of learning itself. However, To love learning is not enough unless one reviews and applies constantly what he has learned. So learning is as much part of our body as breathing. Confucius himself never gave up learning halfway. And he took learning as a lifetime experience through which he actualized himself.
The master said, "If I could be given a few more years, I would study the Book of Changes in my 50s, and then I might come to be without great faults."
So according to the book of historians, 史记, in his old age, Confucius loved to study the Book of Change. He studied his book so hard that the leather thorns binding the wooden stripes were worn out 3 times. So give me a few more years, he said, and then I shall become quite proficient. As a result, he made it. He wrote books of comment and explaining the Book of Change. Another story is about Confucius' experience to learn 7-string lute, the music. He practiced for 10 days without attempting anything new. So his teacher, Shi Xiangzi, was saying that, "You can go ahead now." And the Confucius was saying, "I have learned the tune, but not yet the techniques." Then, after some time, Shi Xiangzi was saying, "Well, you may continue. So now you have mastered the measure, so you just go on." And Confucius said, "Yes, indeed, but not yet the spirit." So he had this perseverance in his learning. And time again, he practiced, he tried to grasp the spirit and even tried to go closer to the composer. Finally, one day, Confucius read the mind of composer, ascertained that it was music by King Wen. And so talking about this perseverance, there's a famous sentence about 一以贯之.
The master said, "Ci, do you think I'm the kind of man who learns widely and remembers things well?" Ci replied, "Yes, isn't it so?" "No," answered the master. "I just link them up all together by one single principle, that is the way, which is exactly the essence of learning."
弟子还需请教一事：夫子所以能有渊博的知识，是否来自于不倦的学习与超乎寻常的记忆能力呢？
这仅仅是一个原因，但并不是最重要的。要想学有所成，应该有一个根本目标贯穿始终。
So finding joy in learning and have perseverance in it, which will lead to one's self-actualization. Then, what is the earnest learner in Confucius' view? So look at this sentence.
A learned man should be the one who values worthy men and thinks light of beautiful women, the one who exerts himself to the utmost in serving his parents, the one who sacrifices his life in serving his ruler, and the one who keeps his words in dealing with his friends.
So how about you? And then the Confucius talk a lot about antiquity. It seems like that he see antiquity as a legacy. There are several sentences in the Analects. So he mentioned this word antiquity. We may understand it as a humble attitude of the master. However, if we see it as a part of a cultural legacy, it is not only the inheritance of the knowledge left by ancestors, but rather the spirit passing down from generation to generation. So this constitutes the continuing spirit of Chinese culture as a whole. So look at these several sentences.
The master said, when Junzi eats, he avoids eating his fill. When he dwells in a place, he avoids seeking comfort. He is quick in action but cautious in his speech. He goes close to those who possess way so as to rectify himself. Such a man can be regarded as an earnest learner.
So all these are talking about antiquity, about the inheritance of what have left by our ancestors. It's a kind of a continuing spirit of culture. And then the last topic, we're talking about this learning and thinking. Confucius was saying that learning without thinking, one is bewildered. And the vice versa, if one thinks but not learns, he will be dangerous. And another sentence, he was saying that I was once occupied with thinking day and night without taking any food or any sleep. There's no use. So I'd rather set out to study. And also, another sentence, he emphasized the importance to reflecting on what is at hand. So that means you need to apply what you have learned into the social practice. So try to tackle the social problems. So you need to learn and think. And another sentence from the Mencius, when he was talking about the function of the faculty, like the function of the eye, you can see, you can hear, and the function of the ear, you can hear, but function of your mind, your brain, is to think. Let's end today's episode with Confucius' 4 kinds of people in regard to learning. He was saying that those who are born knowing everything are the highest of the men. Those who learn and then know everything are the second. Those who turn to learn after feeling perplexed are in the 3rd place. As for those who feel perplexed and yet do not learn, they are the lowest. So which position do you fit yourself into? It depends on how high you set your mind and how much you understand the true meaning of learning. So thank you for being with me.